Hey guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. Second video here on YouTube. Thank you so much for the support on the first video we did. Darcy and I are back again here to have a little chat. Today we'll be covering our, or more specifically Darcy's experience with IVDD. On all the videos we post across all platforms, we get a lot of questions about how did it happen, what is it, like our experience with recovery. So we thought we'd do a bit of a sit down video and explain the journey that we and Darcy went through and where he's at now. So obviously, I think I mentioned in the last video, this occurred in about March last year, at the end of March last year. I think with most stories, nothing out of the unusual was happening the day where it came on. He went for a run in the park and a bit of a walk. And then at the end of the walk, we noticed he was kind of struggling to, walk around a little bit. He was like trying to jump up at us and couldn't. And he just looked like he was in quite a bit of discomfort. So that was pretty worrying. And obviously we are familiar with IVDD. I've had a dachshund before. Luckily that one didn't get it, but I was more than knowledgeable about, the likelihood and some of the signs for it. So on that day, we took him straight to the vet. We obviously live in Sydney and there is a specialist vet in Sydney called SAS who deals with this. So we went there. We got him checked out. When he went to the vet, he was kind of wobbly and unstable on his back leg, but he certainly wasn't paralyzed or anything like that. But we went into the vet, they did a full kind of neuro test on him and a few other bits and bobs and said while his neuro responses were weakened, they weren't gone. So at that stage, the recommendation was actually to take him home and basically kind of crate rest him or prevent him moving. So that's exactly what we did. I worked from home the next day. He didn't move virtually at all from the morning all the way till kind of after work when my partner came home. Then we got him up taking potty and he had deteriorated actually quite a bit. So he was struggling when we took him to go to the toilet to, lift himself or carry his own weight. Again, he wasn't paralyzed completely. He could still walk, but very, very weak. So we gave the vet a call to let them know, what had happened and how it had developed. And we were advised to take him back down to SAS in Sydney. This time, again, he went into a special kind of treatment room. They had a look and the head surgeon there this time recommended that we get the full scan to check out what's going on the inside, CT scan. And so we agreed, of course. Went in for the scan and then, unfortunately we got the news that he did have IVDD. For those that don't know exactly what it is, again, I'm not an expert, but this is how it's described to me. So basically, Darcy, or all dogs, maybe even humans, have a bunch of discs in their back. And one of his had not only bulge, but burst due to, it's hereditary in dachshunds, 1 in 4 get it. But any kind of small strange movement can cause this and it can be building up over time. There's a number of reasons. It's very difficult to tell how exactly it happened, but his had burst and was now, so what happens is inside the liquid in there kind of calcifies before it bursts. So then when it does burst, it's kind of this hard solid that kind of spits out. And that is what pushes or was pushing on his spinal cord and kind of, causing him to start to go paralyzed. He wasn't fully paralyzed. As I mentioned, a lot of dachshunds just completely lose all function in their back legs. And that's where the stuff that comes out of the disc was obviously pushing a lot harder on their spinal cord or could even sever it, I guess. I'm not exactly sure on that. But it was, the definite prognosis there was to operate. So within IVDD, there's kind of 4 stages. You have stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. And again, I can only describe how I understand it. Stage 1 is kind of the lightest touch you can have, where crate rest is almost certainly the option. And that's kind of what we were told he potentially had on the first day we took him to the vet. Stage 2 is where it's a bit more severe. He's kind of struggling to hold the weight of his legs, can't really walk, but still feeling there, and he can still stand on his legs. That's stage 2. That's actually the stage that Darcy had. Stage 3 is then that he's kind of lost the use of his legs, so they'll kind of be dragging behind him, but he still has feeling in them. And then stage 4 is that he obviously has lost the use of his legs and has no feeling. So Darcy was kind of on the lower end of 2, and so the recommendation there was to operate immediately. Again, the operation, as I understand it, they went in, obviously cut a hole in his back, which he's still got a little scar from, went in there and cleared out all this calcified liquid from his spinal cord, cleaned it all out, and then kind of patched him up. And we've got some videos, as you'll see on the screen, of what he looked like when he came out. He was heavily medicated. he had to stay in the vet for a good few nights while he recovered and was still on kind of strong medication. We went and saw him every day, which was really nice because, as you can imagine, we were very, very worried about him. Unfortunately, you know, some dogs don't come out the other end of IVDD, so we were very scared, you know, of what was going to happen. It was a very serious surgery, but luckily he did come out well. The surgeon said it couldn't have gone any better, which we were super happy about, and would likely be able to take him home in a few days. So yeah, we visited him every day. Every time we went, he was starting to get a bit more function. So straight out of surgery, he actually couldn't walk, you know, a combination of pain, but also probably what they'd done in the surgery. So it was going to be a bit of a road to recovery. But by the time we picked him up, he could, move his legs a little bit. Again, he needed a bit of help kind of supporting his back, which you'll see in this video as well, supporting his back while he went to the toilet, but he was on the road to recovery. So we had a few check-ins with the vet even once we take him home. But basically after IVDD, dachshunds and I suppose other breeds that get IVD, they need 8 to 12 weeks crate rest. So that was the next stage. When we got him home, we bought him a bit of a bigger crate, and that was, he was in the crate basically morning till night for close to 8 weeks. The exceptions were that he obviously got to go to the toilet, so we'd take him out and support him in the toilet. And then from about the 3 or 4 week on mark, we were doing kind of 3 sets of physio a day, only about 5 minutes. And so that was to help train him to kind of walk again, strengthen the muscles in the back of his legs, and kind of teach him to walk. So we were given those exercises by the doctor. We were very diligent on them because we obviously wanted him to kind of gain his full mobility. So yeah, they're about 5 to 10 minutes, 3 times a day, and the exercise would change. Again, there's some videos on screen of what we had to do, you know, walking backwards, kind of walking over stuff, balancing, holding his weight, all different stuff like that. Again, we went for another checkup at Sash, which you can see here, after, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks was the checkup, and it was a check to see how he's going. And luckily, the vet did a full check on him and was super happy with his progress. He was actually ahead of what they expected, which again, we were super relieved and happy about. So many more things could have gone wrong. And then at about the 6 months mark, while he's still kind of in his crate rest, we were referred to a physio at Sash, like a proper dog physio, where again, we were given kind of further, more strenuous exercises as he was starting to come to the end of that 8 to 12 week crate rest. It was becoming apparent because he was ahead of schedule that 8 weeks was going to be sufficient for him. But again, it's very much can be 8, 12, even longer, depending on how quickly, you know, everything heals within them. And then as part of that later physio, again, as you'll see on the screen here, we did something called hydrotherapy, which we will highly recommend for dogs that have had IVDD. It really helps them kind of learn to walk under less pressure. So the water obviously takes some of his weight off him, so he can walk with a bit more ease. We did four or five of those sessions once a week, and every time he was kind of walking longer and faster and getting his strength back. And then at the 8 week mark, he was finally allowed out of the crate, but still, you know, under a very, very watchful eye. So no kind of playing, no kind of going up the ramps, no kind of running, just short walks. And every kind of week we got to extend it by 10 minutes. So we started at 10 minutes, went to 20, 30, and about by the 12 or 13 week mark, we were back at, you know, a 30 to 40 minute walk, but still diligently doing his physio at that point. And we had, I think, weekly check-ins with that physio still, where his exercise would change and they would do a few tests on him. And that was in conjunction with the hydrotherapy. And then after that, again, it was probably the 14 week mark where we got, luckily, the all clear from the physio and the surgeon for him somewhat to return, you know, back to kind of his normal things. So we're allowed to play with him lightly. He was allowed to kind of go up and down his ramps, again, being as careful as we can. He kind of resumed to his normal activity level, longer walks, chasing the ball, and a few things, just, you know, being as careful as we possibly can be. And that's kind of where it's remained. Like, I think we're quite lucky that probably at the 15 to 16 week mark, he was kind of back to pretty much full strength, or at least what he is at now. I think I mentioned in our Q&A, to any kind of person who doesn't know Darcy and you see him run today, you would think nothing's wrong with him. You might see a little scar. You'll see when he goes to the toilet, you probably think nothing's wrong with him. There are small things that me and my partner recognize that is different, you know, post the surgery or post his recovery, that I don't think anyone else would notice. But again, just kind of giving you all the information for if you have to go through it. So he does go to the toilet a bit different now. He kind of holds his body in a slightly more stable position and bends over a bit more. Again, I just don't think he's got quite the strength that he does before. He is missing a disc in the back of his leg. And similarly, how he runs, his back legs kind of cross a little bit more. They kind of go in a little bit more of a different direction, not kind of as strict as he was before. And thirdly, I mean, it probably sounds obvious given he's had a major back surgery, he's not quite as fast as what he was before. Still very fast. I'll still enter him into a race, those little sausage dog races, but when he was a bit younger pre-surgery, he was actually really fast, very fast dog. So, well, at least in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the story of, you know, Darcy having IVDD. Our story, like I said, I think it's very important for me to say that from our understanding and our talking to the vets and physio, Darcy was very much a best case scenario. I mean, he got it very young, only 4 years old, which is horrible and terrible, but also helped him because he was still a very fit young boy to try and, you know, recover from it. If you do get it a bit older in a dog, I think it can be a bit more difficult to recover, I guess, just like humans if you get something when you're older. But yeah, his recovery, surgery and everything basically went as well as possible. So we were very, very lucky because a lot of complications can happen. We know people who have had a similar disease with their dachshund, and you know, they can never regain the consciousness of their legs and not be able to walk and end up in wheelchairs. They also can kind of lose control of their bladder, which can be super, super difficult. So yeah, there's lots of different scenarios that can happen. Darcy's story, I think, was the luckier ones to come out of it. But yeah, it's a healthy reminder. The other thing I wanted to talk about, because I get this question a lot, is like, can you do anything to prevent it? So again, this is only my understanding, but absolutely you can do any stuff to prevent it. So jumping off furniture, going up and down steps, anything that puts kind of high strain on their back or muscle can be problematic, like very heavy tug of war, kind of twisting and twerking can be quite dangerous and expedite it. So we didn't do any of that. Again, as I mentioned, I was relatively knowledgeable about dachshunds before getting Darcy. So you want to try and avoid doing that because that will significantly increase their chances of getting it. But the thing to remember, if you are considering getting a dachshund or you have one, is you can do absolutely everything perfect. I'm not saying we did, I think we did a pretty good job, and they can still get it. So it is a hereditary disease. It's because of the way they're shaped, and statistically 1 in 4 of them get it. So you might, as I mentioned, do everything perfect and just be super unlucky as we were. So it's just something really to consider. If you are getting one or having one, you know, they are at risk and it is obviously an expensive surgery. I think as we've mentioned in some of our videos before, we had insurance, so we were lucky, but we still had to pay a significant amount out of pocket. So there are the other breeds that, you know, aren't predisposed to this kind of condition and you don't have to watch out for it, be careful, but with dachshunds, you do. So hopefully you've learned something from that and, you know, now you understand the whole story with us and Darcy's IVDD. Feel free in the comments to ask any questions. We'd love to answer them, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.